Welcome to Nero's garden.
And also welcome back to my channel. I'm struggling with intros, so despite the 18 attempts to record a greeting, a voiceover was required. My name is Daniela. I also go by Zuzu, and I'm currently trying to document what it's like leaving my life in London and moving back with my parents at almost 30 years young and after 11 years of living apart. Also, I learned my lesson that filming outside, especially so close to sunset, is the enemy of editing and continuity, so I am sorry for some sharp jumps. It's all part of the journey, and I hope you can understand. It's been 2 weeks since everything in the last video, so 2 weeks since I left my flat. But I'm still in London, not because of Stockholm Syndrome, London Syndrome. I just had some commitments for this weekend that I wanted to honor. Today's Saturday, and I am flying back to my parents on Monday, which is in 2 days. So it's been an interesting transition period, having these 2 weeks of kind of saying goodbye to my friends, to my city, to my life as I know it. I was able to stay thanks to the generosity of my friend Nero, in whose beautiful garden I am now recording this. I was initially planning to do this upon arriving to my parents' house, but again, I got inspired by beautiful spaces and I just wanted to capture it. Even if I am not able to record the full video here, or there will be some elements that I have to add later on from my parents' garden, I wanted to take a little bit of this beautiful space with me. I'm no less sad for living London, probably even more so now, because London's heat wave has just become heat. It's a very hot summer, and I did anticipate that. I felt it's going to be a good one because we had a couple of not great ones in the last few years. The last great one I remember was COVID 2020. So obviously, despite it being hot, there wasn't much you could have done back then. So I felt that this is going to be one of those really good summers in London, and it is. And the city really transforms when it's hot. Like, if you know it, you know it, and if you don't, you have to experience a summer in London where it's nice and warm. And yes, during the day it's balmy and people love to complain, and there is a lot of that. Oh, but the nights, if only for the nights, to just be able to walk freely until midnight. It gets dark first of all at like 10 p.m. The sunsets are beautiful, and then you can still walk and enjoy the night, or just sit somewhere outside with your friends and have a drink and have a chat, and it's just such a freeing experience of the city. And I had a few of those nights, and it's really great, and I'm trying not to be greedy and be grateful for even catching those. And yet it is, bittersweet that I'm not going to be here for half of the summer. Over the last 2 weeks, I got to catch up with a lot of friends, say my goodbyes, have some lovely meals. I did a few things in London that I really wanted to do. One of the highlights was finally managing to see In Pursuit of Repetitive Beats, which is a VR experience currently on at the Barbican. This is the third time I've tried to catch it, and I finally managed to. So third time lucky. This time I actually made it. The first time I was very ambitious and I booked 2 things on the same day. Barbican currently has all of this different exhibitions that are part of Feel the Sound, which is an event that goes on until the end of summer there. So I booked their main exhibition and this with a very short gap in between them. So the main exhibition, which is super cool actually, and probably if you are choosing which one to go to, I'd say that one has more to it. It's very interactive, it's really big, there are many elements to it, and it's actually really fun to explore. So it took us much longer than I anticipated. My favorite part of that was actually the fact that you get to go into the Barbican car park, and there is a display from Max Cooper, who's electronic music producer, but he's very known for his visuals as well. And I'm so glad I got to catch a little bit of him, because I was meant to go to his night at Coco, but I missed it because I was hungover. So I'm glad that I got to see a little bit of him, and I will definitely try to catch more of him because it was really, really cool. The second time, my friend couldn't come anymore, so I had to like reschedule it to finally last week. And it was really good. In Pursuit of Repetitive Beats is a very cool VR experience created by Darren Emerson. It's a very interesting way to learn about the acid house scene of the 1980s. It takes you back literally to that time, and you are as immersed as modern technology allows you to be. You kind of find the party and you travel there and you get to see it almost from the center point. And it is super cool. There were parts that I enjoyed more than others, of course. And actually my favorite parts were the ones that were super duper surreal, like in which you were flying and you could see the motorway, and then there were like other times when they were like you were surrounded by this like colorful bubbles of light. And I like the storyline aspect of it and I like to follow that, but I would literally just go also for a VR experience of just the surreal elements. I went in, going to be honest, quite skeptical about VR. I haven't had much experience with it, and it was probably when it was still quite new, so it didn't really compare. I'm glad I caught it because it goes on until 31st of August, so this was literally like my last chance to try it. That being said, I think what I enjoyed most in the last couple of weeks in terms of museum experiences and exhibitions was one that I went to on a complete whim. My friend asked me, is there anything that I would like to do in London before I leave? And I was just like watching stories and this thing came up as the text came through. It looked fun, so I just sent it to him and I was like this. So he booked it for us and I went without really knowing what it is. I just knew it looked pretty on the targeted ad that I received. However, it ended up being so on topic and so relevant to what I'm going through. And that was Toho Su's exhibition Walk the House at Tate Modern. I hope I say his name right. Walk the House is an expression that Toho Su heard growing up in South Korea from the carpenters working around his house. He lived in this type of building called a hanok, which are basically buildings you can deconstruct and reassemble in a different location and therefore literally walk the house. He took this, and for him this represents now this idea of homes and spaces that we take with us and we carry with us. A lot of his work is about capturing home physically, but also as a feeling. He's attempted to capture his homes using a range of different techniques, from literally pasting paper onto the surface of the building and then rubbing graphite to capture. It's kind of like if you would put a coin under a piece of paper and you'd like rub it with graphite, you would get the imprint of the coin. That's what he did, but with a whole ass house. He left the paper on the walls for a while so that it can capture some of the same impact that the house itself would take from light, from weather, from other conditions. So he even embedded that into his reconstruction of the house. That was just one of the techniques he used. Another one was like videoing the building in a very, very interesting manner on a moving rail. And he also captured, I don't even know how he did it. It's just so intricate and so meticulous, but he used this mesh and embroidery to recreate literally every bit of the house, from the smallest minute details like chains and light switches and sockets and plugs to like everything from the walls and the construction of the house. It's truly remarkable and incredible, and as my friend pointed out, literally takes a very special type of person to do it. And you know, that's why, you know, artists are just such unique windows into the human capacity to like think creatively but also act on it. And it was very touching and very emotional to see somebody caring so much about their homes and the places that they lived in, because as I sort of mentioned in my first video, I do feel attached to spaces in a very similar way. I never really got to the point of creating this type of art, but even this little venture comes from a space of trying to capture a little bit of the essence of the spaces that I'm in and find some grounding in all this transience and feel like I am claiming a little bit of space and time with my presence and with what I'm doing. And it was just very serendipitous to come across, without really realizing, an exhibition that's all about this feeling of home, multiple homes. How do you connect them? How do you find the perfect space for a home when you've lived in so many different places? He grew up in Seoul, then he lived and activated in New York for a while, and then he moved to London. So a part of the exhibition is actually about him trying to find the perfect place to build a house in between these three global locations, and he's exploring the ability to build a bridge between them, which kind of happens to be around Alaska. This is when the exhibition enters a more environmental aspect, because Alaska's melting. I think the neighbor is burning something because it smells of... Let me just close the door because I feel like it's going to go inside. So an incredible synchronicity to get to see this exhibition before I go, without even really knowing what it's about. Literally a very pretty targeted Instagram story that I sent to my friend, who very quickly booked it for us. And yeah, very grateful, you know, like things do happen sometimes in such a manner that make you realize that there is a certain order to things. And speaking of order, the biggest part of the last couple of weeks was taken by the 6 full day workshop I did in Cranio-Sacral therapy. And I'm saying speaking of order because although there is no easy way to explain what Cranio-Sacral therapy is, ultimately it's this ability to hold space and create a container for the body's inherent ability to heal itself and put itself in order. Cranio-Sacral therapy was mentioned to me about a year ago, maybe a bit longer than this, by a friend of mine who has been receiving it. I resonated instantly with the idea without really completely grasping what it means. She kind of just mentioned it's a very gentle touch therapy. It works on a more energetic level. And this is probably where you would lose most people, but I believe that we are more than flesh and bones and tissues. And although the course does have a lot of anatomy and you do have to know it, there is more than that. And it's been proven by science more and more and more recently. Science and spirituality are kind of like backing themselves up more these days, and science is catching up with a lot of the things that people say exist but weren't proven yet. And one of such things is the fact that we are energy and we are waves as well as we are particles. Quantum physics, baby. And we have biomagnetic fields around us that can be impacted by other biomagnetic fields. I mean, take two magnets and see what happens if you put them together. They either pull each other in or send each other apart, but in whichever case, their fields are altered. I've been interested in healing work for a while now, and I think at the core of it all is because of my mom. She has had a couple of knee surgeries that were quite invasive, and her quality of life was affected, and it's affected me also to see her go through it, and it probably made me feel quite powerless in some sense and sent me without really knowing into this pursuit of some sort of field that would enable me to help her. This realization is quite recent. I thought I'm just interested in body work and in healing work, which I still am. I would like to help people, but I had to recognize recently that this was probably the root of it. So she mentioned that, and I was very interested right from the beginning. And that was when I was sort of at another crossroads in terms of my purpose and my pursuits and my aims and knowing what I want to do in life in general. But shortly after that conversation, I found out that I got accepted onto the advertising placement that I just completed, and that was a dream come true. It was validation of my creativity. It was a chance to finally work in the field that I studied because I did a media and communications degree. It was a unique opportunity to join one of the biggest agencies in London and experience that vibrancy and that life, having been to the assessment center and seen the office and met the people and just having felt that buzz in the air. I was ecstatic when I got in. It was incredible. And maybe in another video I'll talk about my whole experience with it. It was wonderful. I was surrounded by incredible people, talented people, inspiring people. It was like being back in school but being paid for it and having the best classmates ever and the best teacher ever, and I could go on and on and on about it, but maybe another time. But it came to an end, and I realized that although I liked the learning element of it, and I liked the creative element of it, and I liked working hard towards achieving something, I couldn't deny that still in my heart I didn't think it was advertising that I want to give this level of energy to. I think my friends are home. Hello! Oh my gosh! And that's what's brought me here, literally and figuratively, to my parents' garden and recording this video. How's that for a segue to try and join two different locations? Following the course and that realization, I decided to try and do something different this time and listen to that inner voice and that intuition and see what would happen if I don't just jump into the next thing job-wise, which I have been doing for the past 10 years. And it's a topic for a video of its own, which I want to do one day. I've had so many different experiences and I've done so many different jobs in the search for myself, and I never really had the opportunity to just take a step back and take some time to think and sit within this period of pause and see if anything will come up from it. And perhaps that's because I was living away from my family and I always had rent to pay and bills to pay, and especially in London, periods of pause are pretty unaffordable. So seeing as the universe was giving me this opportunity by kicking me out in a way, my flat was coming to an end of contract, I wasn't tied in a job, all things that I was quite sad about, but I decided to flip in an attempt to wonder whether maybe this is a blessing in disguise, and maybe this is the universe providing me this opportunity that I wanted for a long time. And to jump back to cranio-sacral therapy, although I do want to give it its deserved level of attention and speak about it at length some other time, it's worth mentioning that from the moment it came back in my field of vision, things just aligned so well. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, although my contract ended, I had to stay in London for a couple more weeks, and it brought me to this week of training, which I've just done. This is just the first stage out of 6 that happen in person, alongside some other study work and homework. So next one is happening in October, and I would like to do it. I've thoroughly enjoyed the 6 days. It unfolded in a way I could have never predicted. I am hoping to come back for the second part in October, even if it is not as a complete move back to London, just to go back for the 6 days and do the next part whilst trying to find more people to practice on here, which is the main hindrance for not being in London whilst doing it, because I don't have access to the whole community of students, so I can't practice with them. But it's not impossible. I've been practicing on my parents since I got here, because they are really the only 2 people I know in this city. And even the support I received from them has been so incredible. I kind of expected them to mock me for doing it a little bit, but it was quite the opposite. And I'm looking to find ways to bring more volunteers into this, or maybe perhaps when I'm going back to Moldova, I can recruit some of my willing friends. But as all the tutors I've spoken to have told me, if it's meant to be, the field will find a way to give me these opportunities. And if not, I am trying not to resist it and not to push an idea that's in my mind of wanting to do this, but allow myself to lean into whatever happens. It's an exciting new thing to learn that could potentially turn into a new venture. So I'll talk more about it, about the first 6 days, about how I found the college that I did it at, and follow along if you're interested to see where this takes me. Also, as you can tell, I am in my parents' garden. I left sunny London for cloudy Romania, which is a combination of words and adjectives I never thought I would use for these 2 countries, because normally it's the opposite. I come back from a muggy summer to here where it's sun and I can sunbathe and lie on the sun lounger the whole day, but it's been hit and miss in terms of days. It's warm, but it's not like super sunny, which, you know, it's not bad. But yeah, I made it back. So the next videos will be about my reunion with my parents and how it's been since. So do follow along if interested, and thank you so much for watching this, and I will see you in the next one. This week's shout out, which I am trying to make into a little tradition of having one in each video, because my friends are the biggest reason why I'm here and why I'm able to do this and why I'm able to cope with life in general. So this week's shout out couldn't be to anyone else but my friend Niru, who took me in, so generously opened her house and her heart to have me for a whole 2 weeks, and honestly made me feel so welcome and so at home and just a part of the family. Kira, you're probably watching this, Mahesh, probably not, but thank you so much for having me over for these 2 weeks. Thank you, Niru. Thank you for providing this wonderful space and for putting up with me for 2 weeks. We met during a 1-week acting course, and although I didn't really pursue it after that 1 week, I think this will become more apparent as I tell more about my life, but I've done a lot of soul searching and a lot of attempts at finding my thing, and acting was one of those things. It gave me Niru, and sometimes that's what you do these things for, because they bring you people in the most unexpected and the most weird and wonderful ways. She actually did go on pursuing acting, and she's a very talented actress. So if anyone's watching this and is in need of a model or an actress, Niru is your person. She is brilliant, she is fabulous, she's glamorous. I am incredibly, incredibly honored to have such role models in my life and have such wonderfully generous people taking care of me and looking after me and just rooting me on. So
Very pretty. What's your favorite flower, Nira?
I love all my plants, but I have to say my beautiful acer. Those of you who know what an acer is will know how much work goes involved in this. This is my beauty.
Aww.
I think I would cry if something happened to you.
We're not gonna let it.
No, it lives on.
It lives on.